In the Are We Crazy segment tonight, as we reported last week, 18-year-old Melissa King, Miss Delaware Teen USA in Donald Trump's Miss USA contest, has lost her title because she made a hardcore porn film. I say that's her fault. But our two psychologists put forth that society may also be to blame. And now there's some new information. In Great Britain, a new study says that sex offenses committed by children under 18 are up 38% in 2 years. 98% of the offenders were boys, and the internet is prominent in the study. Joining us now from Los Angeles, psychologist Dr. Wendy Walsh, and from San Diego, attorney and psychologist Dr. Bonnie Forrest. So have you changed your mind at all on this issue on Miss Delaware, first of all, Dr. Forrest?
I really haven't, Bill. I am still of the same mind that you and I discussed last week, which is I believe in personal responsibility, but we get personal responsibility from two sources. One is our parents, as we talked about in depth last week, and two is good brain, as I call it. And studies over the last 5 years coming out of the National Institute of Health have told us that the age of 18, we don't automatically become mature. Our brain really doesn't mature until about 25. And I got a bunch of email over the last week or so from coaches and teachers who really agreed with that. The other source, of course, is parents. And here, she was raised by the state from 12 to 18 , Bill.
This woman was. This Miss Delaware didn't have good parents. All right, okay, and so you're going to cut her a little bit of slack, and I'm not objecting to that. But I think primarily that Miss King knew that what she did was wrong. I mean, it might not be morally wrong for her, but it was wrong in the scheme of if you're going to be a serious person, you don't make a hardcore porn film. If you want to be a tattoo-laden drifter, how would she know that? Because she lives in the United States, all right?
And yeah, but her influences are Kim Kardashian. Her influences are people, Bill, who have risen to celebrity and made money off things like pornography. Now, this young girl
wait, I just want to stop you for a minute. So you're telling me that an 18-year-old woman does not know that making a hardcore porn film for display all over the world is not going to harm her. That's like saying an 18-year-old doesn't know that using heroin is not going to harm her. They know, they just choose to do it.
Not when one-third of all internet content is pornography. They think it's mainstream and that it's normal because so many normal men are consuming it, Bill.
All right, I disagree, but that's okay. I think that this woman has to know, unless she's mentally ill, she has to know that doing that is going to harm her in the marketplace. Now, Dr. Walsh, you were a little bit more outspoken than Dr. Forrest. I understand that you got some hate email directed to you. Give me one example of the hate email and tell me why anybody would do that.
Well, I wish I could, but I can't say those words on TV, Bill. I will say that they tended to be profane. They tended to be from men. They tended to say, how could this crazy doctor blame society for XXXXX, whatever this woman was doing? The truth is that this is our daughter, Bill. We raised her as a culture. She was in the foster care system. She was taken away from her own parents at the age of 12, probably because of abuse or neglect that might have included sexual abuse.
Gives her a little bit of compassion. But why would anybody, Dr. Walsh, write you a vicious letter full of profanities about an issue as serious as this? Why?
Because young men are such huge consumers of pornography, they want to make sure that they don't lose one. And why are teenagers allowed to make pornography? Teenagers. It doesn't matter if you say 18 as an adult.
You're considered an adult.
Yeah.
All right. So you think the hate mail is generated by people who are pro-pornography? Is that what you were saying?
Absolutely. There are a lot of young men out there who think there are no danger to using pornography when, in fact, they're getting addicted. Most young men are using it 3 times a week for as long as an hour. And they're getting visually addicted and having trouble with their own relationships. They're having trouble with a consistent warm body.
If you're going to be doing that stuff, then you're going to be in trouble. All right, now, on the British study, Dr. Forrest, you have a trend in Great Britain that because the internet pornography is available to anyone, and you could be the greatest parent in the world, but you got the handheld devices and everything else now, that this is influencing the way British boys, primarily, are behaving. Is that what you took from this study?
It is what I took from this study, and that it's more accessible, Bill. It's much easier for kids to get into their hands. Yeah. But I also think you made a point here, which I think that sometimes gets lost in our conversations, and that is you can have the best parents in the world, and sometimes peer pressure is such, or access is such, that given the brain function, that they don't aren't able to control their impulses, which we now know from brain science over the last 5 years, that acts as a greater influence than even the best parents. I've got really good parents in my practice whose kids get into trouble sometimes.
Oh, there's no doubt about
because
it.
they're impulsive.
Good parents are not
Yeah.
a panacea for children behaving, correctly all the time. But I think that there's this personal responsibility business is on the wane in this country, and I think that's destructive for the country. I think we have to, even though this woman was in the foster system, even though that she's probably a dopey 18-year-old and she doesn't have a high level of sophistication, she knew, in my opinion, she knew. Dr. Walsh, last word, go.
I think this young woman may even have been sexually abused herself, and this is what she knows to please people. This is what she knows to make money and survive. And if this young lady would like to come live with me, I raise girls who make good decisions and have high self-esteem. So come over here, honey. I'll help you.
All right, ladies, thanks very much. When we come right back, the Trayvon Martin case gets even more disturbing. And a 12-year-old boy dies from alleged bullying. Megyn Kelly, moments away.